Welcome to the Joyfully Homeschooling Podcast
with our mom,
Misty Bailey. Tips and encouragement
for
real-life homeschooling
is headed your way.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a bonus episode of the Joyfully Homeschooling Podcast. So as everybody is getting into their first days of school, I wanted to kind of share with you how to handle it if your first day of school kind of sort of sucks. Because let's face it, in some point in your years of homeschooling, you are going to have an absolutely horrible first day of school. So I shared mine a couple years ago, the worst first day we've ever had, on the blog. And I'm going to kind of chat a little bit about that and then share with you how you can overcome a horrible first day of school, or really just any bad day of school. The same scenario applies. So our first day of school, I believe this was in 2015, I think it was. It may have been 16, but anyway, the school boxes were lined up, the room was ready, and the first day of school sheets were printed with care. Portfolios sat waiting to be opened and work to be documented. All was in order and ready for that perfect first day. But then the next day, reality set in. The boy didn't want to do school. Our picture-perfect schedule I had created, it didn't go quite as well as I had planned. TV no longer kept the boy happy because I'm going to be honest with you, TV was daycare for Daniel. It was babysitting for him whenever he was little. I swear to you. Our not keeping up with math lessons all summer led to forgetting everything from the year before. At 3:15 that day, the books were closed. 3:15. The exact same time as our local school ends, and we started at 9 a.m. that day. It was an absolutely horrible first day of school. Horrible. And quite frankly, I was not prepared for it. Before we had always had good homeschool days, good first day of school. And that year absolutely knocked me to the ground. So now, as we have finished that horrible first day of school years ago, and I have a few more years under my belt since, and at that point, I'd had probably at least 5 years under my belt, but had never really had a bad first day of school. I have a few things I want to share with you. The number one way to overcome a bad first day of school or a bad day of school period is to lower your expectations. We had always had great first days, so I expected a great first days. But in hindsight, I should have been prepared for it. The first day of school had always been easy, so at some point, the shoe had to drop. I expected to be done by 1 every day. My new expectation from that day moving forward has been 2. I expected my boy to be eager to do school, and I believe he was 3 or 4 at this time. My new expectation, and the one I still hold on to, is for him to learn and do something. I expected at that point my girls to work more independently. My new expectation is to ease them into this by staying in the room and available but not hovering. Now, that was my expectation at that point. Now, years later, my girls do work independently, but you have to train them up for that. And that year, I expected them to work independently without really being trained for it. So after years of training them by sitting near them while they worked and being available but not hovering, they are now completely independent. So when we have high expectations of anything, whether it be our homeschool days, our homeschool years, homeschooling in general, we are bound to fail. So after you've had a bad first day of school or a bad day of homeschool, it's important to reevaluate your expectations. See what can be changed and lower those expectations if needed. It is always better to have lower expectations and to exceed those than to have too high of expectations and to absolutely have them crumble beneath you. The next one is to choose joy. Homeschooling is hard. It is very hard. But I think we as homeschool moms forget that we set the mood in our homes. And when things don't go as expected, our kids look at us for guidance on how to react. What kind of example do we want to give them? Do we want to give them an example of frustration or one of joy? Do we want to give them an example of anger and disappointment or one of understanding? Keep in mind, our kids have expectations as well. They have moods. They could pick up when things are not going as planned. So if we choose joy from the get-go, we will start the school year off right. The next one is to remember the big picture. Now, this is huge. What are your long-term goals in homeschooling? Yes, we want our children to learn the basics, but we are also raising human beings. First and foremost, we are to nurture our children's hearts and minds. We are to point them to Christ every step of the way. Our job as parents is to train up a child in the way he should go. Proverbs 22:6. As homeschool parents, our biggest goal is to educate not just the minds of our children, but their hearts as well. We are to disciple our children. That is the big picture. And if we are not remembering that big picture and we are only focusing on the academics, we are losing sight of the reason we homeschool. We are losing sight of the goal of us as parents, and we don't want to do that. So, moms, I can assure you that at some point, you will have a bad first day of school. At some point, you will probably have many bad days of homeschooling in general. But how we react to those bad days will determine how the rest of our homeschool year goes. So, how do you overcome it? You choose well. You choose joy. You lower your expectations and remember the big picture. This is just one bad day in the course of many great days. Don't let one bad day of homeschooling ruin your whole year or your whole homeschooling experience. So that is it for this bonus episode of the Joyfully Homeschooling Podcast. I hope it encouraged you. And if you have had a bad first day of homeschooling or just a couple bad days in general and you need encouragement, then please shoot me an email, misty@jointhejourney.net. I would love to chat with you. You can also join my Facebook group, the Joyfully Homeschooling Community, or follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I would love to hear how you overcome bad first days of school. Another way that you can overcome those bad days or just remember throughout the school year to choose joy is to wear my Join the Journey shirt. It is a tangible reminder that we can find joy each and every day in our homeschool journey. And it is one way that whenever I know I'm going to have a rough or exhausting day, a day that is going to test my patience, I put on my t-shirt because I'm reminded that if I blow up or get angry, my kids can see right on me that I need to have joy, and I'm failing them if I don't have that. So it's a tangible reminder, and I will leave a link to that in the show notes. So that is it for this episode. I hope, again, that this encouraged you and reminded you to head out there and have a more joyful homeschool. Have a great day, guys. Bye.